Good morning, everybody. It is Monday. Today, I am a guest speaker for one of our team in Utah. So it is a pleasure for me to speak to his team out there doing real estate investing and fix and flip. So the topic we're going to be talking about today is analyzing the numbers, because this is the number one topic that most real estate investors get hung up on, is when they have to analyze a property and they're not confidence with the numbers that they come up with. So we're going to break it down line by line from how much you can sell it for all the way down to the profit. So I am on a call this morning with my team, and we'll get to it. So we got about a couple minutes. We'll go over these topic, and as well as you guys can also take notes, write these down, so that way hopefully these numbers will be able to help you guys out. Gain confidence to analyze properties, make an offer, and know exactly how much profit you're going to make. All right, so here we go. So we are just waiting for my my intro, and hopefully we'll get started here. It's supposed to start in 2 minutes, and so hopefully it doesn't take too long. But here is the numbers, you guys. It's probably backwards, but this is the topics we'll be covering today. And just like I said, I want you guys to take notes, because this is what has allowed me to get properties like this that you see in the list here. So we'll get started.
Our guest speaker today, we've got TJ. How do you pronounce your last name?
Ruizo.
So we've got a special guest. He was a union carpenter for 10 years, and then he acquired 48 properties in the last 3 years. So he's had tremendous success in real estate. He's from Tacoma, Washington, runs the Renatus meetings up there. He's got 3 real estate businesses. He's just killing it. I can't wait for you guys to learn his topic about sticking with the numbers, sticking with your numbers, understanding your numbers, and sticking to them. So without further ado, let me turn the call over to TJ.
Good morning, Nate. Thank you very much, and it is a pleasure to be on your call this morning, you guys. Again, my name is TJ Ruizo. I'm out here in the Seattle-Tacoma market, and also running the Renatus community out here. So today we're going to be talking about the numbers and sticking to it, you guys. And it is very important that you guys do stick to it. So I'm going to break it down, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to write it down. And once I get done going over these numbers and the topics, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions. All right. So anyway, again, thank you. And so the numbers that we're going to go over is basically breaking it down from analyzing a property and understanding the whole process of it. Okay. So for me, when I analyze a property, I start off with the ARV, which is how much you can sell the property for. How much is the comps that's selling in the area. Okay. And then the next numbers I will go over is selling costs. You got to learn and understand what goes into what it costs to sell your home. That's involves with your agents and title and escrow. And I'll revert back to it and break it down to the finer details, you guys. And then rehab costs is the next numbers that I consider. Is with your contractor, they got to be able to give you your find numbers to where it works with your budget. Okay, if it doesn't work, then obviously you don't want to adjust and fudge your numbers to make it work, because that's playing with fire. That's when when the mistakes happen, that's when you start losing money. Okay, so another thing I consider is holding costs. That is your monthly mortgage service. So how much ever your loans is, you have a monthly mortgage service amount. So you got to consider that, or how many months you're holding the property for. And last but not least is your max purchase price. You gotta figure out what is your max purchase price, so that way you can make your minimum profit, which is the next number, is figure out your profit. This is where, was it worth to you to put in 6 months of your time or holding that property for 6 months? How much do you want to make you satisfy that, it's enough to pay your bills or whatever hobbies you have? Okay, so those are the numbers: after repair value, selling cost, rehab costs, holding costs, max purchase price, and then at the end determines your profit. So, okay, let's break it down. We'll start with the after repair value. You can determine after repair value from your agents that you're working with, and basically just figuring out what's selling in the area. How much are the houses selling for? And you want to go apples to apples comparison to begin with. And then from there, you kind of start, adjusting. Okay, how many bedrooms do you have? How many bathrooms? What location? And typically you want to go within a quarter mile to start off with to compare your houses. After you fix it up, how much can you sell it for? And your agents will be able to provide that for you. And not only that, once your agent provides you the comps, you want to be able to understand the aggregates of that comps, right? So you want to rely on your agents, but at the same time, you want to understand what determined that price, what determined that value of it. Okay, that's like I mentioned, the finishes, the location, and the size of the home. All right, so that's figuring out your after repair value. And then the next thing is your selling costs. So your selling costs involves with a buyer's agent and a seller's agent commissions. And then typically with my agents, I negotiated from a 3%, which is typical on the market. And what you want to do is, once you develop that relationship with your agents, you can negotiate your selling costs or listing costs with your agents to anywhere from 2.5% to 2% to 1.5%. And that's your listing agent. Typically the buyer's agent's commission is, you don't want to lower that too much, because those are the people that are bringing in the buyers, right? Because if you lower your buyer's agent's commission, let's just, for example, if you lower it to 2% instead of 3%, they're less motivated to bring you a buyer. They'd rather steer their buyer to a listing that has a higher commission, if you understand what I'm saying. So you want to maintain the buyer's commission at anywhere from 2.5% to 2%, depending on your relationship with them. So that's the commissions involved on the selling cost. And another thing that's involved in the selling cost is your title and escrow and taxes. With me, I have a pretty good relationship with my title and escrow, so therefore they give me a investor's discount. So all of you that are in this call, you are an investor. So you can build that relationship with your title and escrow in your local area and let them know, hey, I'm a real estate investor and I'm going to be doing multiple transactions with you guys. Could you give me an investor discount on your title and escrow fee when it comes to closing? With taxes, different states, different county, it varies. So overall, my selling cost as a whole, to estimate my selling cost, is about 9%. Some of my closing costs anywhere from 8 to 10%, just depending on your seller's or your agent's commissions, title and escrow fees. So for me, I go with 9% off the bat. Okay, and I'll run through these numbers again for you guys to better understand it. So that's selling costs. Now let's go over the rehab costs. Okay, this is very important because the rehab cost makes or break the deal. For me in the past, I always just estimate the rehab costs from your laptop, right? Everybody does that to determine on the get-go whether to move forward or not. So I always just try to guess how much things cost. I mean, we all have a judgment on how much things should cost based on our experience. It doesn't have to be, right on the penny, estimate, but at least you want to come up with your own numbers. So you have something to compare with when you have a contractor walk the property. So when you walk the property, I always bring my estimated from my laptop. And then once your contractor gives you their estimate of how much things really cost based on what you need done to the property, you can compare. And then you can learn from them and ask them, hey, why did the roof cost more? Or why does the roof cost this much? And you're comparing it with your original guess from your numbers. And so you're learning from them. They'll explain it to you what needs to be done. Maybe the roof needs to be, relayer, or it needs to be completely tear out for new sheetings. So you go down items by items and you get to learn from your contractors. So once your rehab budget meets that, that's the next challenge, is making sure that what your contractor had promised you to, what things needs to be done within that price range, that you hold them accountable to it. So for me, my contractors, I always sign contracts with them. We sign a scope of work contract that breaks down exactly line by line what he promised to get done for the price that I agreed on. Okay, so that's number one. You got to make sure that your rehab budget meets your contractor's price. Okay, so the next thing in line is holding costs. This is your purchase price, which is a lot of my purchases involves with hard money lender or private money lender, and based on your terms that you agree with them, that will determine your monthly payment. So my hard money lender covers 90% of the purchase price. So whatever the amount is, for just example, let's just say you bought $100,000 house, or you're under contract for $100,000 property. My hard money lender will bring in $90,000, and then I have to bring in $10,000 for a 10% down payment. And so that $90,000, whatever you add on the points and fees, which my lender also rolls into the loan and puts it as a bundle, and then they also charge 12%. So 12% on a $90,000 for 6 months, you can kind of determine how much money it would cost you. And then the next thing you to consider is we always need to borrow construction, or you can borrow from a private money, which I do a combination of both. I borrow from a hard money lender and a private lender, which is your average Joe that has IRAs and 401ks. So I pay them 12% as well to make it comparable and competitive with my hard money lender. So your purchase price and your rehab cost, add them together, and typically this is my quick little calculation, is purchase price plus rehab cost and holding cost is times 0.06, which is 6 months, which is my average holding time frame from the day I buy a property or a deal, fix it up, put it on the market, and sell it where I'm getting paid, is about 6 months. So you have to consider a 6 months holding time frame if that's your time frame. That's for me. So that's the holding costs numbers. And then the next thing is your purchase price. So as you run down this formula, after repair value, selling costs, rehab costs, holding costs, that will determine your max purchase price. Okay, so this is another important thing that makes the deal or breaks the deal, is because if you run all these estimate already, that will give you at the bottom of that, after you reduce it from all your ARV, that will give you your max purchase price. and you want to stick to this. Right now, the market, you guys, is really hot, especially out here in Seattle. Everything that's listed on the MLS is going for about $25,000 to $50,000 over asking price. So once you run all these formula and you have a max purchase price, you want to stick to that. You don't want to get emotional with your numbers, because if you're adjusting your purchase price, $5,000, $10,000 more just to get a property deal, when things go wrong, you're going to end up paying for it. You're going to end up losing money. Okay. So always run this formula, you guys. Max purchase price is, for me, is anywhere from 60 cents on the dollar and below. Okay. 60 cents on the dollar would be, paint and carpet. I don't want to do too much to it. And the more work it needs for me, I want to buy it the lowest price. Like my acquisition last year was 48 cents on the dollar on the 12 properties I've acquired. So 48 cents on the dollar, as you can see, you can figure it out. And you don't want to go above 60%, because based on my experience, you go above 60%, your numbers gets really tight. And I want you guys to really practice this every single day. Okay. So let's break it down. So the first thing you need to figure out is ARV. Then you want to subtract your selling costs. Then you subtract your rehab costs. And then you subtract your holding costs. And then you subtract your max purchase price. So if you guys are on this call, take notes, write this down. Okay. And then that will determine your profit. This is you determining how much is your time worth to take on the project. Is it a paint and carpet project where you're okay with making $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 because it's just a quick turnaround? Or is this a full remodel where you gut it down to the studs and it's gonna take a lot more of your attention and money to finish this project? So therefore you want to get paid more, because your attention and your worth and your time is going to be tied up to that project. So that is up to you to determine how much you want to make. For me right now, I want to make anywhere from 50,000 and above. So if a project doesn't pencil out on paper from my laptop, if it doesn't show $50,000, I move forward or I give it to somebody else. I'd like to get $100,000 right now, but the market is really hot. It's kind of hard to find deals. But for you, in whatever market you're in, that's for you to determine. Okay, so that's the numbers, you guys. I live by that numbers. This is like my holy Bible. I stick to it. I've learned and made a ton of mistakes in the beginning, but this is what has worked for me. A lot of people have the flip calculators and whatnot, where you just punch in 3 or 4 numbers and it spits out your profit. Those are great, you guys, but the big problem with that is if you don't understand the breakdown of every single components of what determine your profit, it's you're playing with fire, because when something goes wrong and you can't trace what went wrong, you can't scale your business. You're just guessing the whole way. You're hoping that this formula or this flip calculator is giving you the right information. And that's another thing that really holds people back. And I feel like, they don't have the confidence for a lot of new investors, because they get handed over with a flip calculator and they punch in the numbers and say, oh, this is going to make this much profit. Well, your confidence on that numbers is very low because you don't understand the breakdown. So for me, I want you guys to practice the breakdown of every single cost that involves to flip a house or invest in a real estate project. Because once you understand every single line by line, I promise you, you're going to be so much more confident to move forward, to make that offer. You'll know that when you make that purchase and you have a property under contract, you have just made profit. Okay? So that's pretty much that covers the topic for me, you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to mute yourself, and I'll answer anyone's questions.
Awesome training, TJ. Let me start out. How are you finding your properties?
Yeah, so for me right now, I mean, I submitted about 10 offers last week on the MLS, but like I mentioned, the market is so hot out here in Seattle that everything is over asking. And so I network a lot, and everybody else probably too, but you want to tell people what you're up to and what you're looking for. I get wholesalers sending me deals all the time, and sometimes the numbers make sense, and sometimes it doesn't, but wholesalers and MLS is where I'm at right now. I'm also sending a 500 letter campaign from our Renatus iOS software, and that's going to be a really valuable source for us to find deals before it hits the market.
Fantastic. And how many properties do you have going at any one time?
So right now, I have, I have 7 projects going at the same time right now.
Nice.
Yeah, 7 different projects. Some of them are rolled over from last year, but mainly this year I got 3 different projects going at the same time for 2018. And at the same time, so like I said, I got my marketing out there. We got properties that's coming in. We're analyzing every day, and agents are out there in the hunt for properties for me.
Fantastic. All right, guys, press star 6 to unmute yourself and ask any questions you might have for TJ.
Hey, TJ, this is Scott. Quick question. When you're at networking events, can you just give us an example of what you actually say to someone to communicate what you want and what you're up to?
Yeah. Hey, Scott. So great question. So when I'm at networking events, we always gravitate to somebody that we can closely relate to, but mainly I kind of eardrops with everybody else. You kind of have to filter the crowd, right? So I tend to go to somebody that are like, hey, I'm a wholesaler, or hey, I'm an agent, or something that leads a property to me. So, I let them know, hey, I'm real estate investor. I've been flipping this, or I'm looking to flip this many houses this year. I'm looking for a property in this area. And I always let them know what the number breakdown is for them to understand what I'm looking for. Because a lot of people will just, talk and chat about properties and they want to flip houses, but they never really go into the aggregate of what they are looking for. Like your formula. I mean, some people don't want to share them, but hey, the more people that understands my formula, the easier for them to send me a property that makes sense. So they're not wasting their time. So I always try to target somebody that's a wholesaler, an agent, or a contractor, and let them know, always have business cards with you. And that's pretty much it. Let people know what you're up to and what you're trying to do.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Any questions? A good question, guys. Press star 6.
Now, does everybody else understand the breakdown of the numbers I showed you guys, or hopefully you guys wrote it down? So yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just have a quick question. You explain the difference between the max purchase price and the ARV, because I always thought those were the same thing.
The max purchase price and ARV is 2 different things. So the ARV, which is after repair value, is what determines how much you can sell the property once you finish remodeling it and you list it back onto the market. Your max purchase price is what you are, how much you're willing to pay for the fixer-upper or the property before remodel that will net you a profit on the back end after you subtract all the costs involved into remodeling a house and holding it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Hey, TJ, let's say you
meet with your contractor and your budget comes out to be way different than theirs? Where do you guys go from there?
Great question. Great question. So this has happened to me numerous times because, just like I said, you want to guess your own price to what you see the property in your laptop, and then once your contractor gives you the estimate. So what I do from there, if the price difference is significant, you can either go make sure your contractor can provide you the reasons on why it costs that much. And again, too, guys, is you want to have 3 contractors minimum to give you a price, okay? And so if the price is significantly different from what you estimated, what you'll do is you'll take what your contractors your estimate contract that they should be able to email you on the breakdown on how much things cost. Then you can take that back to the listing agent or the seller and let them know, hey, this and this is the issues of this house, and enable for me as an investor to make it work to buy in this house. I would have to reduce your asking price to here. And it's pretty much a take it or leave it from there, because just like I said, you want to stick to your numbers, to what you're comfortable with and how much you'll make on the back end. So that's a great opportunity for you to renegotiate your contract price. And if it doesn't work, if they said no, you just move on to the next one.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a question about finishing the laundry room areas. If all the rest of the house is finished and it looks beautiful, but the laundry room is still just the bare studs and you can see the insulation in there, how much value does a finished laundry room utility room bring to a house?
I would say pretty significant value, because the laundry is almost considered as a living space. You don't want the buyer to walk in there and you wow them with the kitchen, the living room, and the bathrooms, and then they walk into the laundry and it's still down to the studs. You can see insulations. I would say you want to finish the laundry room just as well as you finish the rest of the house, because it is a regular used area as well. Every week or every day somebody's going into the laundry room and using that space. So you want to finish it. And as well as, this will determine your comps too. So if you're looking at your comps and everybody else is selling their homes with unfinished laundry room, or 1 or 2 unfinished laundry rooms, and it's meeting your price, then it kind of gives you an idea that, okay, I can sell a home with unfinished laundry room. But typically for me, and everybody should be finishing the laundry room, making it as good as the rest of the house.
What do you do to find good contractors?
Great questions. Great questions. I love that questions because I get asked that a lot. Here's the number 1 tip, and I want you guys to write this down, okay? As real estate investors, we're out there hunting for properties and deals every single week, every single day. One thing that I really do is pay attention. When you're driving, you'll see projects happening throughout the neighborhood. I want you guys to stop by, introduce yourself to the contractor, or meet the owner or the investor that owns that project. Let them know, hey, you're a real estate investor as well, and ask them, like, is this an investor project or is this a homeowner project? If they say, hey, this is an investor project, then you just found yourself a contractor that is willing to take on a project that's an investor kind of criteria. Because as investors, we want to pay the least amount for our rehab, right? So if the investor is using that contractor to do his fix and flip, then that contractor's bids are competitive and suited for us investors. So drive around, look at projects, stop by, get their business cards, and save them on your phone, because they're the people that are already out there working for other investors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone have one last question?
Well, about the 1099 forms, I was just going to say, when you decide on someone's going to be the contractor, what's your what do you do about that part of it?
So when you decide that you have chosen a contractor?
Yeah.
Okay, so once you have chosen the contractor to work on your project, you've obviously determined that their bid estimate works with your rehab budget. Then the next thing would be is creating a contract and the scope of work that they have given you and they have provided you with their bid. You want to sign a contract agreement that states and breaks down everything from when they're starting, how much the budget was, when are they going to complete it, and as well as what are your action plans when things change, like a change order, like when they break into a wall and stuff like that, your costs may adjust. What are your action plans for you both to keep moving forward, right? That statement has to be in the contract for change orders, costs, and who approves and what are the time frame added or subtracted to the contract as the work progress. So you always want to sign a contract, your payment schedule, and completion schedule. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was great, TJ. Thank you so much for your time today, for all your fantastic tips. We're going to go over a couple quick announcements. You can stay on if you want, but thank you so much for your time. Guys, a couple of announcements for the team. We've got a lot of exciting things going on this week. We've got a property tour of my Draper property with some training. So presentation on Renata and training by Matt Nelson. He knows his stuff. So come on Tuesday night at 7 or 35 South, 600 East in Draper. And then, of course, we've got our class, all of our classes on Thursday. You can tune in through Real Estate Wealth Creators. If you're out of state, went over the loan management account last week. We're always covering some great material. And then finally, we've got a huge opportunity to learn more about land. We've got the Renatus instructor, Gary Cannon, who's a good friend of mine, really great guy. And he's teaching about land at an intensive this Saturday. It's $50, and that includes lunch. If we got to fly this guy out and everything, so reserve the space. So $50 plus lunch, well worth it. And, well, that includes lunch. Bring guests. Land is a powerful way to make a lot of money. Shane Myers just made a $250,000 check. The guy that was on our call last week or 2 weeks ago. Which anyway, a lot of great opportunities this week. Thank you so much for joining the call. And any last final questions about any of the events or activities or final things that have come up?
Nate, I just want to say thank you for having me here today, and hopefully, everybody else can run those numbers. And it's my pleasure to be here and help you guys out.
Yeah, TJ, incredible value today, man. I really appreciate your time, brother. That was great training.
All right,
gotta
Nate.
stick with your numbers. It's all about numbers, not emotion, right?
Correct. Remove your emotions. Stick to the numbers.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks again, and have a great week, everybody. Hope to see you at one of our events.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.